At Wind River Resort and Casino, we like to celebrate life's little moments. Oh, and the big ones too, because around here, when you're completely in the moment, that's when the magic happens. Come in and find your moment at Wind River Resort and Casino.
Happy Wednesday morning show. I'm Chief Meteorologist Mike Krueger. Weather NorCal, you're watching Coffee with Krueger every weekday morning at 6:30 in the morning, with the exception of yesterday. I was out in South Lake Tahoe. We left on last Saturday. The kids had practice at Sierra Tahoe all day, was skiing, had a great day up there on Sunday. And then on Monday and Tuesday, the kids had races. It was a Northern Division. They're just concerned about the lack of snow that was at Shasta Ski Park, even though they're still open. A little concerned about, scraping their boards with the rocks and exposed, all that kind of stuff. So we went to Sierra Tahoe, and they had a great time. And man, I tell you, the conditions were awesome. I was able to do some skiing out there, and in between, checking out the races, and it was just a good time. And as you can see here, a little red in the face. Not shy, not bashful, but of course, the sun kind of did a little bit of a job on me. Not too bad though. Take a look at the radar, and this was something that was pretty much right on schedule. It pretty much, as far as the amount of rainfall we saw, was pretty much right on target as well. You can see most of it's moved on out, but we still have what we call a couple of clipper systems. That is, high pressure is building in as we speak, and what we're going to see happen is these next systems that are approaching, they're just not going to have a lot of energy left over, because they're going to get broken apart a little bit here. The energy will push to the north. That being said, there still could be a little bit of activity along the coast, to the north, into Siskiyou County, for example, even Trinity County. But there are the rainfall totals. We saw, for the most part, a few hundredths to over a quarter of an inch in some spots here for the valley, especially to the north. And for the coast, as expected, that's where most of the rain was. So about a quarter to a half an inch on average. And of course, off to the north and east, as we typically see, just not as much rainfall there. Now, there are a few and there have been some chain requirements on some of the higher mountain passes. And you can see on Highway 89, east of I-5, and then as you head closer to the Tahoe region, but on Highway 70, Highway 49, there are some chain requirements there as well. Take a look at some of the Caltrans cameras out there, and kind of still hard to see at night, but looks like we're mainly looking at wet roads on I-5 near Mount Shasta City. Looks like still a little bit of snow trying to come down there at Snowman Summit. Highway 36 at 89 near Chester. Looks like it's all clear there. Johnson Grade looks pretty good. And for down near Summit, looks a little wet. Not necessarily much in the way of snow. Now, there is a little dusting of snow on Lassen Park on the highway there on Highway 44. So there are some chain requirements as a result. And you can see Bogard Ranger Station. Of course, these are some of the highest elevations. So this is pretty much what we had expected with any snow on those mountain highways. There's Hatchet Mountain. Kind of that borderline, looks like a bit of a mix there, but Cedar Pass looks like a little bit of light snow at 6,000 feet. Hey, take a look at this. It's a beautiful picture sent in by Jessica. Jessica sent this a sunrise from Tehama County yesterday. Absolutely gorgeous. And of course, Jessica used the free Weather NorCal app to send these photos. And a lot of the photos I've been showing over the last few weeks are from people who are sharing them from the app. And it's very easy to do. You just go to your app store, search for Weather NorCal, download the app for free, and before you know it, you can share those photos, and then you might even see them on the morning update at 6 a.m. and right here on Coffee with Krueger. Now, the visibility is dropping a little bit here, but nothing all that bad. Still some pretty high visibility. We just have some some low clouds, a little bit of drizzle out there this morning, but I do expect improving conditions here. There you can take a look at some of what it looks like the conditions in the valley. Main Street Chico on Highway 32. Again, you can see just that limited visibility, or visibility is dropped a little bit here. That's also the case in Red Bluff. Looks like we might have a little bit of drizzle there. So be prepared for the fact that the roads may still be a little wet here for your morning commute, despite the fact that most of that rain has pretty much moved on out. All right, so there you can see we are looking at, looks like mostly cloudy skies here at Sutter Butte, but not sucked in with that fog, with certainly a bit of a break here. Got a couple people checking in this morning. Jackie Dixon saying good morning from Trinidad. Thank you for checking in this morning. Let's see what she's got to say. There she is. We had a nice downpour yesterday afternoon, evening. No surprises there. Thanks for the report. Curtis Brown saying good morning. Started raining here at about 1700 hours. Some patchy fog this morning. No rain right now. And that's to be expected. We're looking at mainly dry conditions, although, like I said, there's going to be some drizzle out there. We got Wasey saying good morning, Mike and everyone from Sacramento, California. Well, actually, it was down in your neck of the woods yesterday. We were coming from South Lake Tahoe on a Highway 50, headed down into Sacramento, and we had a nice, I guess, early dinner, late lunch, early dinner, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, actually, and then headed back home to Redding, California. So, yeah, welcome, Wasey. So glad you could join us here this morning from Sacramento. All right, let's get into your Krueger's Quickcast here for your Wednesday, January 28th. We are going to be looking at temperatures in the upper 40s right now in the valley, 30s for many of the higher elevations. Just got to check in here from Deborah Ann, as a matter of fact. She's saying that the temperature there is 31 degrees and super foggy in Etna. So, yeah, that's what we expect. And at 31 degrees, you might even be dealing with a little bit of that freezing fog. You know, when you have that temperature right around or below freezing and it's foggy out, those are little water droplets that can hit a surface, a cold surface, like even especially if over a road that is a bridge, especially if there's a bridge. So yeah, Deborah, maybe be a little careful, making sure you don't run into any patchy, icy spots. Otherwise, you can see temperatures for the most part are above freezing in most cases. Now, out the door this morning, still mainly cloudy, still fog out there. But I do expect to eventually see a lot of this begin to kind of clear out a little bit here. So the storm system that we saw yesterday, that's moved on out. Now there's another one that's coming in. You can see a little bit of rain coming just off the coast there. That may still bring a chance for a light shower for parts of the coast and even northern Siskiyou County as well. But it's a much weaker system. We've got high pressure in place, and that's what's really helping to eat away at these storms and also kind of divert a lot of that energy northward. But still looking at a lot of the overcast skies, even around midday, there's that weak clipper that is going to be north of the valley here for this morning. And then I do expect to maybe even see some breaks in the clouds. But we talk about these clipper systems, right? How they just clip Northern California. So even as we go into this afternoon and evening, not out of the question for Northern Humboldt, Del Norte, and Siskiyou County to maybe see a stray shower. And some of those trying to work their way this evening and tonight into parts of Modoc County as well. And there you can see by Thursday morning, we're drying things out. Not as much snow as we were anticipating. We were certainly hoping for a lot more snow out of this system, but it just didn't do much. Did get a couple of inches of snow out towards the Mount Shasta Ski Park. There you can see it went from 24 inches at the top of Douglas to 26 inches. That's based off of their latest report. Let me see if they have a new one coming in. I'm not exactly sure when they update the information for the ski park, but I think a lot of times it's typically the evening before. So when we're looking at it this morning, for example, that's typically from the evening before. So this may not account for some of the snow we may have seen last night. So it'll be interesting to see what the next report comes in at. But as of right now, again, not as much snow, it looks like, as anticipated with this system, unfortunately. But no change. Looks like maybe a little bit of light, fresh powder on top of the groomed trails there, so it should be good. Looking at the rainfall estimates for today, they're very low, and that's just because the system's exiting the region, but still a little drizzle out there. Now, Sunday is the next storm system that we got our eyes on. This one also looks to dissipate by the time it makes its way over us. I think most of the rain will be for those of you along the coast, maybe Trinity County, and the inland areas as well. Well, for today, we've got those mostly cloudy skies. Temperatures upper 50s for the valley, 40s and 50s for the higher elevations, and upper 50s for the coast. It's that time of the year that sometimes we just don't see much of a temperature spread across the region. Overnight tonight, we're in the mid to upper 30s, even some low 40s in the valley. Mainly 30s, but some upper 20s in there for areas to the north and east in the mountains, and looks like low to mid 40s for you along the coast. 40 degrees for a low tonight in Willow Creek. There's your 7-day forecast for the valley. Yeah, we're going to dry things out. Still some clouds out there, though. Even though high pressure is building in, it's going to be what's known as a dirty ridge of high pressure, and that still allows some of these systems to kind of push through and at least bring us some clouds. Sunday is the best chance for rain at this point, but don't count on much, at least for the valley. Most of it, I think, will be along the coast, inland, and even for places like Trinity County. Western Siskiyou County, so places like Scott Valley, Fort Jones, Etna, for example, I'd say have a better chance on Sunday as well. But as you start heading eastward, I think those chances are going to be slimmer. All right, that's a look at your Krueger's Quickcast. If that's all you needed, have yourselves a great day. If not, we're going to go in a little bit more deep dive and talk more about that potential for rain on Sunday as well. We start off by taking a look at some of the cameras that are out there this morning. And this is looking out at Lake Oroville, North Forebay. Yeah, we still have a lot of that overcast skies. Again, it might be a little drizzly. You may need to use those windshield wipers this morning, maybe intermittent every once in a while. This is looking at Highway 99 at Neal Road. You can see just kind of the scattered clouds out there, kind of the broken overcast skies that we do have. So we are seeing that sun already peeking through in some spots this morning. This is looking at a Red Bluff on I-5 from the Caltrans camera there. Looks a little misty there, a little misty in some spots for the Redding area, or drizzly, or whatever you want to call it. And you can see Highway 44, Sundial Bridge Drive. So looks like, again, kind of the overcast skies. Again, we looked at this a little bit earlier. Sutter Butte seeing some breaks in the clouds there as well. So, yeah, we've got mostly cloudy skies, but we are seeing some of those breaks. Unfortunately, the Crescent City camera decided to freeze up on us, but, oh, no, it didn't. But it looks a little overcast skies there. Bald Hill West, there you can see, looking down at Hoopa Valley. Very thin layer of fog, if you will, there. You can see those the city lights here through those clouds. And, of course, above that, still seeing those mostly cloudy skies. This is looking at Soda Ridge and kind of socked in with some of those low clouds, at least around the vicinity of the camera. And as we have reported from Deborah Ann saying it's foggy in Etna, well, there you go. We are looking at Scott Valley, and you can see Scott Valley does have that fog. But I do think that that should burn off later on today. Especially if we can get enough clearing above that. Looks like we got a nice fresh dusting of snow at Lassen Park there. You can see the trees, right? The trees have some of that light dusting of snow there, but really didn't do much on those tracks that you can see. It usually kind of fills in those tracks. Didn't do much of that, but look off in the distance. Beautiful shot there of some of the beautiful mountains out in the area. Well, today is Wednesday. Every other week we do a Grange Co-op Spotlight, of course sponsored by Grange Co-op. And did you know you can start planting those rose bushes here soon? And Grange Co-op has made sure that they've got plenty in stock, so you can head on out there and get your roses. Check it out. Hello everyone, I'm Mike Krueger from Weather NorCal, and you are watching Grange Co-op Spotlight. With me right now, I've got Aaron, you are a supervisor here. Tell me what we got going on back here. You wanted to kind of talk about the nursery, roses?
Yeah, so we've got our bare roots coming in. Now's the time of year that you really want to start planting your bare roots. So we started with our bare root roses. Those came in today. And then our bare root fruit trees and nut trees and flowering trees are going to start coming in next week. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, so this is now the time, like you say, and you've got them right here at Grange Co-op.
Yes.
So everyone, if you come in, you're good to go on that. Now, something also exciting, there's some new things going on at the nursery, right?
Yes, so our shade structure has been delivered. We're going to start seeing that going up here in the next couple weeks. So that'll be really cool. We'll have that ready probably right about the time for spring to really start going crazy.
That's awesome. All right, so the bare roots are in season. Be sure to get here. Be careful when you grab them. Grab them from the bottom. They're little spiky thorns here. You got to be really careful with. So thank you, Aaron, and we will see you next time for another edition of Grange Co-op Spotlight. Once again, I want to thank Grange Co-op for sponsoring Weather NorCal in general, and of course the animal family segment that they, the two segments. Of course, you got Pet of the Week and Turtle Bay Wonderful World of Animals. So I want to thank Grange Co-op for their support, and of course you can see what's going on there at the store. All kinds of great stuff going on throughout the year, and of course we'll always have that every other week right here on Weather NorCal. And you can check out what's going on out there. All right, let's take a look at another look at that picture coming in from Jessica. This is a sunrise of Tehama County. Just gorgeous. This was yesterday, I believe. And Jessica sent this from the free Weather NorCal app. Just search for Weather Space NorCal in your app store. Download the app for free, and you can share those photos yourself. All right, so we've got drier and a warmer pattern that's going to continue. So we're going to see patchy fog. We're already seeing that this morning. We'll probably see it again here the next few mornings. Now, the next chance for rain will be on Sunday. It's not looking all that promising that it'll be anything all that significant, as most of it will probably be on the coast and then kind of fizzling out by the time it works its way over the coastal range. Now, overall, not looking very wet out there, folks. There's another little version of the headlines, but we're going to get into what we expect here as we go into Sunday, why we don't expect a lot of rainfall in our deeper dive forecast, which is sponsored by Shasta Hearing Aids.
Hearing isn't just about sound, it's about being part of every moment. This isn't your grandparents' hearing aid, It's a smart hearing aid for modern life. It's Bluetooth enabled, easy to control from your phone with your personal prescription, delivering the clarity you need. All that technology at half the cost of competitors, so you never miss a moment worth hearing. With our Here For You program, you get personal care and support every step of the way. This is what quality care sounds like.
All right, so let's start off with the radar here. The radar is going to show that, yes, we saw that rain last night, and it's kind of course, yesterday evening and last night, you see it's all shifted off to the east. We got to see some of the snow in the mountains. As a result, there have been some chain requirements this morning, mainly for big rigs, especially above, say, elevations of around 5,000 feet or so, but a little bit, a few areas a little bit below that as well. Also got a nice little bit of snow out towards Mount Shasta Ski Park. Not as much as we were hoping for, at least at this point. I don't see that. We'll take a look at the camera, hopefully, and see what it looks like as we start getting a little bit more daylight out there. But what we're seeing here is another weak disturbance that's coming in. Now, what's essentially happening is this. Today, high pressure is building in. So what's going to happen is we're going to start to see the clouds begin to erode away because of high pressure. And on top of that, any system off over the west will start to break apart, and a lot of that energy get pushed up to the north. But you can see here, I call these clipper systems because sometimes they just clip Northern California, like you can see right here. So places like Northern Humboldt, Del Norte, and eventually Siskiyou County may see some light showers coming in late this morning and even into this afternoon as well. Now, looking at the rainfall totals again, this is pretty much on target with what I was talking about yesterday. About 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch of rainfall is what I mentioned for the valley. Now, some areas didn't quite see that 1/10, only a trace out in Willows, only about 400 out in Chico, but you can see a little bullseye there in the foothills just east of Chico, some heavier rainfall there. About 1/4 of an inch out at the Redding Airport, give or take depending on where you are in the Redding area, and as expected, it was about 1/4 to 1/2 an inch in many cases for the coast, and that's essentially what we've seen here with the system from yesterday, and not nearly as much off to the north and to the east. Now again, looking temperatures, you're seeing temperatures in the upper 40s, and that's just pretty mild because of the overcast skies that we have out there and some of the drizzle. Also notice quite a bit of a warm up, if you will, not quite as cold as it was yesterday at this time, but we're more in the 30s and mainly above freezing in most cases for the mountains, although we did get that report from Deborah in Etna mentioning that it's about 31 degrees there, so there might be some of that freezing fog over there. Speaking of fog, the visibility actually looks pretty good. We did see the camera a little bit earlier from Caltrans at I-5 in the Red Bluff area. We did see a little bit of reduced visibility, but down to about 2-mile visibility there. And there's going to be some patchy fog as well for many of those mountain valleys as well. But I do expect a lot of that to kind of break apart. Winds picking up a little bit for the valley. That may help to scour out any fog trying to develop here. But overall, what we've got here is this high pressure building in. This is the storm system that moved through yesterday afternoon, yesterday evening. That's now well off to our east. We got a little bit of a dry slot, but you can see another disturbance right here. Kind of this little first batch here. The main area of low pressure is right here. That's being, you see, notice the track of this storm. You see how it's kind of moving up to the north and east? That's because high pressure is building in and is pushing that energy northward. So this is breaking apart as a result of that high pressure, but it will still bring us some clouds here throughout the day today. So just kind of taking a look at the long range, and once again, you see how we have that ridge of high pressure right here? That's just in that perfect location that we just don't end up seeing much. Now, it's also in that perfect location that sometimes these systems can just barely brush through that ridge of high pressure, and that allows some places, especially to the north in Del Norte and western Siskiyou County, and even parts of Trinity County, to maybe see some showers as we go into Sunday. But you can see it's very insignificant. Other models do want to bring it even into the valley by Sunday afternoon, but for now, I'm going to keep it dry for the most part, with just a slight chance on Sunday. Then we go through next week. High pressure is still that dominant feature, and it's going to keep us dry. So let's take a closer look over the next several days here, and you can see the overcast skies that we do have in many cases here. It looks a lot like fog, and it certainly is the low clouds, but also looking at a little bit of drizzle out there this morning. By around midday, we're still seeing a lot of the low clouds sticking around, so it's going to be fairly persistent through the morning. You'll probably notice that, but by midday, early afternoon, we're going to start to see those clouds begin to break apart. But there's that next clipper system right here that'll move through Del Norte and into parts of northern Siskiyou and even into northern Modoc County as well. By Thursday morning, it's all pretty much over with. Still some clouds coming in. There's that another next clipper coming through on Thursday to the north, otherwise fairly dry. Now we've got our eyes on Friday at 8 a.m. You can see another system just barely clipping northwestern California, right? But otherwise, the rest of us are looking at mostly cloudy skies on Friday. Looks like we actually may see a little bit of a break as high pressure amplifies a little bit more on Saturday, and that's going to allow us to probably see more sunshine. But that amplification is also going to kind of push this energy more to the north. However, this is the one we're talking about on Sunday, how it may be able to push through partially of the ridge. So as it hits the coast, I think you're going to see some rain on Sunday, especially as you go through Sunday morning. Some of that working its way into parts of Trinity, inland areas, western Siskiyou County. But as this moves over the coastal range, Marble Mountains, Trinity Alps, all of that is going to break apart. And of course, as it hits the ridge of high pressure, it breaks apart as well. Now, there may be an isolated shower or sprinkle for parts of the valley, but as the farther east you go, I'd say the slimmer the chances of that rainfall. And you can see that here, that it is picking up on most of the rain here along the coast. And then you see what happens as you start heading eastward, it really starts to diminish significantly. It is showing a little bit trying to make its way into Redding, but I mean, you're only talking about a hundredth of an inch of rainfall and a little bit trying to work its way off to the east. But overall, this is not going to be all that significant. So when we look down the line, the Climate Prediction Center, as we go through almost the middle of February, it looks like a drier than normal pattern. Now, I find it interesting because in my posts over the last several weeks, I've been talking about how I expect to see drier than normal conditions going into the end of the month and even in the beginning of February. But a lot of people who are experts in the weather say, oh, this is all going to, that ridge is going to break down and we're going to be looking at a lot of rain coming in at the end of January and the beginning of February. Well, here we are, the end of January. Yes, we saw a little bit of rainfall, but it wasn't very strong, was it? Why? Because that persistent ridge of high pressure, it's sticking around and it's just not really budging much. It's kind of moving a little bit back and forth. It's also weakening a little bit at times, but not enough to really allow these storms to gain that energy and produce that rainfall and even snow that we could use. But you see that with that high pressure in place, it keeps us warmer than normal. You can see that here through this week, that little dip in the temperatures with that slight potential for showers on Sunday for the valley, but better chances for the coast as we saw earlier. And then look at that. Temperatures really continue to spike as we go towards through next week. Now, this is kind of interesting. And this is something I've been kind of touching on over the last several weeks as well. We look at the rain season. Now, we looked at these numbers. I'm going to take this so you can see better here. But we take a look at the season. When we looked at this a few weeks ago, it was 120, 130, 140, even 150% above average, with the exception of Crescent City. What we're seeing now that we've had this lack of rainfall, we're still, for the most part, above 100%. But we don't have that cushion of 130, 40, or 50%. We're seeing these numbers begin to drop as a result, and even Crescent City, only at 81% of average, Alturas 112% of average. So kind of interesting that we have that. And then we look at the lake levels. The lake levels are actually looking very healthy. We've been talking about how we have very healthy lake levels out there. So rain, water content, all of that looking good. But once again, that snowpack, it is just getting more and more depressing, actually, right? Because you look at Northern Sierra and Trinity, 26% of April 1st average, 44% normal to date, 61% Central Sierra. Southern Sierra a few weeks ago was above normal, but now even that is not looking all that great. And the statewide average, only 58% of normal to date. So yes, we could definitely use a lot more. So even when it's up at Sierra Tahoe, there were a few bare spots trying to kind of come on out as well. So it's not looking great up in the mountains. All right, those wave heights, as you can see here, they actually look to increase a little bit here for your Thursday afternoon. But overall, we don't have a small craft advisory today. We don't have a gale warning, so that's good news if you need to be on a small boat with your winds from the south at about 10 to 15 knots. All right, so here's your neighborhood forecast, sponsored in part by Dignity Health. Let's take a look at that Trinity County neighborhood forecast. Temperatures on average about 50 degrees, give or take. Now, I got you dry, mostly cloudy skies. There's that chance for rain coming in on Sunday. Now, where are you going to see the best chance for raindrops? Yeah, the coast. inland, even parts of Trinity County, we'll see that on Sunday. But until then, for the most part, dry. Again, a couple of clipper systems moving through Del Norte, northern Siskiyou County over the next few days. So take that into account. But otherwise, shouldn't be that much of a deal breaker as far as outdoor plans are concerned. Temperatures in the mid to upper 40s for Siskiyou County. That's also the case for Modoc County. A chance. I put the word chance in there on Sunday, but I wouldn't count on it. Same thing for the Eastern Mountains. A chance, but better chances as you head to the west of the valley. And even the valley, I've included that potential, that slight chance for showers on Sunday. As you see that on the 7-day forecast for Chico, a little bit of that dip in the temperature. Then for your Groundhog Day, well, will our local groundhog see its shadow? Most likely that's what it's looking like for now. Temperatures upper 50s for places like Redding and Cottonwood. In fact, it's about 57 to 58 for that daytime high. A little bit cooler for Whiskeytown and Lakehead at about 55 degrees. So looking at your 7-day forecast for Redding, those temperatures are going to be in the mid-60s by the time we do get into your Thursday, Friday, Saturday. A dip in the temperatures on Sunday, but look at the temperatures starting to climb again. In fact, I think we'll see some 70s by the time you get to the middle and latter part of next week. Of course, that's still a ways out, but it's just not looking all that promising when it comes to rainfall, folks. Yes, it was nice to finally see. Let's see if I can bump my chair up a little bit here. It was nice to finally see some of that rain that we did see yesterday. Would we have liked to have seen more? I think in many cases, yes. I think many people would have been happy to see that. Would we have liked to have seen more snow? 100% yes. It would have created some travel delays, as it already did, but we need our ski resorts. Even Tahoe. Tahoe could certainly use a lot more snow. Mount Shasta Ski Park could use a lot more snow. They have been hanging by a thread, folks, but they've been able to stay open. And kudos to the Mount Shasta Ski Park, by the way, with what they've been given. I think they've done an amazing job with their snowmaking capabilities and just keeping things, for the most part, skiable and snowboardable, if that's a word. But I think they've done a good job. And hopefully with what we've seen yesterday, that might give them a little bit of a boost. So hoping for that. I'd love to see the kids on, I know we were at Sierra Tahoe this week. I'd like to see them get a practice in this Friday. I'd love to see them get a practice on Sunday. And I'd love to see them get a race in next Monday as well. So let's hope that snow kind of sticks around for a while. A couple more people are checking in this morning. We have got Catherine Schmidt checking in. Of course, she did that right before I went and did my deeper dive forecast. Sprinkled most of the night. Fog moving in now at 36 degrees. And we got a couple of good mornings out there, so let's give you that shout out. Barry is saying good morning. We got Brian Pickard saying good morning. And Jay is saying good morning. Well, good morning to you all. I'm so glad you could join us here this morning. It is going to be an interesting day. We're kind of going to transition from the wet conditions we saw, especially late in the day yesterday, to drier but still semi-overcast skies working their way into the picture as well. Well, that's going to do it for us this morning. Have yourselves a great rest of your day. I'll leave you with some pictures here. I'll leave you with some cameras. In the meantime, have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow morning right here on Coffee with Krueger at 6:30 tomorrow morning.